Okay, in this video I'm going to complete the installation of my Wi-Fi thermostat. In the previous video I did show some of the details in fishing, or routing I should say, this extra cable with two wires that are needed to support it, but I didn't give you the actual detail on how to fish the wire through, I don't think. So I'm going to explain. After you have the hole drilled, I used a coat hanger. I actually taped two coat hangers together because a coat hanger is sufficiently stiff to push through, but it's also flexible enough and small enough in diameter to get through what it needs to get through when after you drill the hole. It does have to have some flexibility, enough flexibility and enough stiffness. Okay. Now, I've attached this, you can see the way that I've attached this string here, okay, more or less, okay, and this string, I have a great enough length in this string to run the distance from this hole up into the attic. So the procedure, there may be more than one way to do this, but the way I do it is, I fish this down through until it comes down enough here so that with a flashlight, a person can spot that, okay. Now, it's going to have the string attached to it. This is a different coat hanger because the other one is too long. I can't hold it in this position, okay? Now, once it's down in this position, then as you move it around, the person will be able to grab the string with a pair of tweezers or pliers. They pull the string through, out, all the way out. Then the coat hanger wire is retracted all the way up into the attic, leaving the string, one end of the string out here outside of the hole. You then have the string at the low spot and also at the high spot. At that point you can disconnect the coat hanger wire, it's not needed anymore. Then when in the attic you would then fasten the string to the end of the thermostat wire. Okay, the thermostat wire has flexibility, but it also has rigidity, and it can be difficult to fish. You can't push it through, for example. It would get caught up. So the idea is when the string is attached to it, you pull it through with the string. You attach the string with tape in such a way as to give a pointed tip, so to reduce the possibility that it will get caught or hung up. And then if you apply enough tension on it, while you're pulling it through, it keeps it straight. And then once you get it down to this spot, you can then reach in and grab this, because you need to then turn the corner, as it were. And this wire is stiff enough. There will be some difficulty in turning the corner, but you can grab the end with a tool and then you pull it through. Once you've pulled it through, okay, then you've got it. That's the condition that it's in right now. I just snapped off the wire, but I still have it here. Okay. Naturally, I'll remove the tape and the wires to complete the installation. Okay, the previous holes I just filled up with some spackling. Okay, I'm going to have to drill two new holes for the new one. The previous holes did not use wall anchors, but the new one will use wall anchors because I just happen to know that the new one here, the faceplate, when it attaches in, it's very difficult to pull it out. And if this faceplate is not rigidly attached, it's going to be a problem. Okay, so the installation procedure does call for using the anchors, and I will use that. But before I do that, I will show you some of the details where I finished up some of the work in the installation of the extra wire. So I'll start in the attic and show you what I've done up there. Okay, here is how I finished up routing that wire or cable in the attic. I basically just shoved it down on the underside of this vent pipe and then taped it in position there all the way to one end. At the very end, it does have to run for about an inch on the deck floor, and then I can get it out over to the vent pipe. Now, that's not necessarily the best possible configuration because it's still somewhat exposed, but it is probably going to be adequate, and I'll probably just leave it like that. I could put it in its own something, you know, or could have, but I think this is going to be fine. Okay, now I'll show you. Okay, this is the laundry closet on the first floor, and previously I had not had that installation complete, but I've stapled it into the corner all the way down, reinstalled the baseboard. I patched, you can tell it's a different color. I put spackling over the cut in the ceiling. I'd probably have to paint the ceiling white in order to, you know, match the color there. But I probably won't do that. I mean, it's probably going to be fine. Okay, now I'll go back upstairs. Okay, now I'm just going to go through the installation. Okay, they do have an installation video, but I turned off the circuit breaker that controls my heating system. That's the first step in the little book. Second step is to remove the old thermostat plate, which I did. Remove the wall plate up to the point here where I will basically, I did take a picture of the old one, and I've done this on a previous installation, so I don't need to label all these because I know exactly where they're going because of a previous installation. Okay, I marked out the spots for the new faceplate. I used this just a Phillips head screwdriver just to create an indentation so the drill wouldn't wander. I already started the drill there, but then I decided to show you that. Okay, I drilled the holes. Now I'll attach the wall anchors. This one is actually going into the stud, so I had to be careful to make sure I drilled that far enough into the stud so I'll be able to set the anchor into that space. Okay, I drove the anchors home. They seem to be fine. The faceplate is designed to stand off from the wall a small amount. You can tell because these are raised. There's a little spot there. So the anchor is not designed to be flush with the wall. Okay, so now I'll just screw the faceplate into that spot. Okay, now the way the faceplate holes are set up, there is some adjustability in the positioning. One hole is oblong in this direction and the other is oblong in the other direction. So you can level it up before tightening the screws. Okay, so I've got it level now. I'll tighten the screws. Okay, here is a previous installation that I'm simply going to copy. So I'm going to take off the jumper wire between the RC and the R. Okay, and then I'm going to put in my red, the first red wire to the that one that's labeled R. You can't see it because it's behind that. And then the original white wire goes to the W. Okay, that's the first step. Okay, I have attached the two original thermostat wires. The red one goes to the R. I did trim off a little bit off the end of the red. And the reason is because I am going to have to route another wire directly next to it, and I want to minimize the possibility of shorting. I did the same with the W because it's the same situation. There's going to be a wire right next to it. Now the W goes into the fifth spot. I can see that my video quality is degrading here, but this thermostat is not labeled as clearly as the previous one because the W and the C, the labeling is a little bit ambiguous. The C goes to number 4, but then the W is not placed directly over the fifth one, but is slightly off to the right. But in either case, I'm going with the 5th position for the W, and that's because the number of labels does match the number of slots. There's just a printing offset for some reason. Okay, now I'm going to push these wires back in, then I will prepare these other ones for the final connection. Okay, I've pushed those wires back into the wall. I have nicked and then peeled back the outer layer. You can do this either with if you nick the end with a razor blade or anything sharp, and then you pull on it. Sometimes you can just do it with your hands, and sometimes you can need a pair of pliers for grip and pull it away. Now I'll simply strip off the insulation on the end of this. Okay, I did take off insulation. I used this pair of strippers. Now, when I checked the cable that I was using, it's actually 18 gauge, and this particular pair of wire strippers doesn't actually have 18. It's got 16, and then it goes from 16 over here to 22. So the 16 just barely makes a nick in the insulation. The 22 cuts through the insulation and nicks the wire. So I did nick the red wire a little bit using the 22, but tiny, it'll be fine. I used the 16 on this and nicked the white insulation. And then I just basically pulled the insulation off with my fingers. It's not very strong. Some people just take it off with their teeth or their fingers or what have you. Okay, now I'm just going to tidy this up. I will make these final connections. Okay, I did trim the red wire a little bit just so I wouldn't have too much exposed. I made the final connections. I put a little bread tie around these just as a little bit of protection against these sliding into the cavity. Which of course they shouldn't, of course, because they're screwed in tight. So, but in the future, if there was some work here, wouldn't want that to happen accidentally. I might replace that with a zip tie, but for now this is fine. I'll just put the faceplate on. The faceplate is supposed to just snap right on now. Let's see if it does. Okay, it looks fine. I still have to make a final connection to my 24-volt transformer in the basement for my new wire, the so-called C wire. And I won't do that as part of this video since it's running long. But anyway, that goes through this installation of this, and there's still some software registering it. I have to make the final connection in the basement, but that's all for now. Thanks.